Anthony Moyles is with us. Anthony, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good, gents. How are we all?
Meath are back. Didn't take much.
Yeah, you're a week late for me. They're back, Ger.
Oh, they're properly back. You do it once, it's like, okay,
yeah,
prove it to me. They've done it now. It's like,
yeah, I don't know. I wasn't at the game. I watched it back. Yeah, they've improved. I think they have improved. Obviously, I think they've scored. What have they scored? 7 goals now in 2 outings. So there's a definite pattern you can see, whereby the players are taking their men on in the forward line. There was different goals this week. You know, I think Clare would be kicking themselves because it was the concession of 3 goals that probably were soft enough. One was a long ball in, which Donald Lennon kind of got a flick on. Another one was just a kick out mistake, and then the other one was a kind of a scrambled goal, really, from a ball that should have been shepherded out in the side. So Clare will kick themselves. Meath are happy, obviously getting goals. I think there's a bit more. You know, with the fellas involved, Barry Callahan and Stephen Bray, I'm not surprised that the forwards are taking their men on. Brayer's MO was always to stand you up as a defender and go at you, you know, left or right. So I'm a big fan of that, because I think this idea of, I think we've watched football and we're still seeing it with teams, and I know we've spoken about this in the past, where they're not really taking risk, you know, and the ball goes into the inside man, and even when the opportunity is to stand up and go to the defender, he's looking to recycle it back out, you know, and you're never going to get goals that way.
well, it's going to finish 9-8, and
exactly,
you know, and you might lose, you might win, but you're not really influencing that.
Correct, and you'll hold on to the ball and you'll shepherd it back. You know, you'll kind of pass it back out and you'll play it across the 30-metre line, and you'll just, you know, you eventually someone will take a shot, or you'll engineer a kind of a 2-on-1 or a fella coming off the shoulder. But to really get that, you know, 1-on-1 situation, the ball obviously has to travel in fast, and then you have to have a forward who's willing to take on his man, and that is a skill. It's a skill that was kind of forgotten about probably the last 6 or 7 years, but it's coming back in, and I'm glad to see that they're doing it. I'm a bit worried about their defence. You know, they've conceded a lot of scores. They've been outscored in both games. So, you know, I think whatever it was 16 points Clare racked up, and a similar enough 19 against Cork, which could have been 122 or 123.
Turns out Cork are really good, though.
Well, it does, yeah, and it's, you know, that was a surprise. I actually, you know what, I'm not just saying it, I kind of did fancy Cork, because I looked closely at the Meath game. They could have easily won that Meath game if they had got the goals at certain times when Meath didn't get, you know, Meath got them. It could have swung easily for Cork, and you could even hear Kerrigan after the game. He was very, very disappointed. You know, you could see the disappointment in them. I'm surprised by Kildare, though, you know, because I thought Kildare, after running Dublin so close, I knew they were massively disappointed in not getting something out of that game, but they obviously just, I don't know if they took a big hard week of training. I know you can't really say that, and of course it's impossible to know, but Jesus, they were flat. They were absolutely flat, you know. And at home, which I saw some people saying, Newbridge doesn't suit the Kildare team, but, like, you know,
it does. That's not an excuse. Yeah, so they'll be definitely very worried about that, because Division 2 in the league is a bear pit, and, you know, all of a sudden you're going to need to perform in the Leinster Championship, and it's not going to, you know, if you haven't performed in the league, you're not going to suddenly switch it on and qualify for the Sam Maguire that way. So you're staring down the barrel of the Tailteann Cup.
Yeah, you are. And, you know, I kind of looked at the teams in Division 2 and Division 1, and you're kind of going, wow, there's 3 or 4 teams in Division 2 that are probably playing better football than some of the teams in Division 1 at this stage.
Yeah.
You know, and there's that you can't really say that for the last number of years. There was always a gap in Division 1 and Division 2, maybe 1 or 2, but, you know, I hate to say it, Shane, but Monaghan looking serious bother for me. I know people are talking and people are kind of bigging up the new man from Kerry, and you know, he's definitely needed, but I just felt that some of the Monaghan defending was atrocious, and I'm not even talking about the Paddy Clifford goal, because I think some of the lads they couldn't really do anything about it, but at the same time both of them could have had a chance to jump on his toe and block the ball right at the end. And I'm just worried. I'll be worried about Monaghan. I don't think Donegal are in great shakes. And, you know, Galway without Comer are a completely different outfit. completely different outfit. You know, they need obviously Walsh back ASAP, but you know, so there's a couple of teams there that you would be slightly worried about, and then you've got other teams obviously like Roscommon who are coming to the fore.
Yeah, we should talk about Roscommon because obviously they ended up beating Galway, coming from behind, kicked the last 4 points. I think bit of controversy about the refereeing at the end, but I think it's too early for us to care about refereeing controversies. Really, you're seeing teams,
lots of them
exactly, and you're seeing teams play and put stuff down. And Roscommon have put back-to-back games down. League's very important for them, but there's an opportunity for them too to just become one of those teams who we talk about as being capable of winning a big championship match in Croker in a quarter-final or semi-final.
Definitely, because they've had the forwards the last number of years, so that hasn't been a problem. Defence-wise, and I said last week, midfield-wise, so certainly defence, I just think they leaked a lot. They kind of have an idea, well, you score, we'll score. They have the forwards, like Merton and these guys are fantastic forwards, and they're well able to, but I think under Burke they're much more organised. They're playing without a fear, you know, they're just going for it. They have wing backs who are well capable of coming up the field and taking scores, but they're also tightening up at the far end, and they're becoming a bit meaner. They're becoming a bit more physical, you know, they're becoming a bit more street smart, I would put it, you know.
You mentioned, Anthony, the Clare conceding the goal from the short kick out. And even last week in the opening round, Donegal gave Kerry a goal in similar circumstances. Rory Beggan had a mistake that gave Armagh a goal. There was another one at the weekend as well. I can't remember which game, but constantly Armagh, Killian O'Connor nearly scored a goal from an Armagh kick out.
Yeah.
Is it happening more regular? It feels like it's the first two rounds of the league. There have been so many goals from goalkeeping mistakes or from bad kickouts. Maybe teams are just pushing up more on kickouts, and it's becoming a new trend.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen because there is that risk reward, and you know, stats guys I'm sure are looking at, well, the amount of times we actually kick long and it breaks versus the amount of times we kick short and retain possession, and how much do we score versus, you know, one versus the other. And I know people have been given out about fly goalkeepers, and there's no kind of more a fella who pronounces it as more than Ethan Rafferty with obviously with Armagh. But I watched that game closely, and I think what you lose on one side you gain on something else with a fella like him who's well able to come forward and set up scores and get involved and win kickouts and everything on the far side. So I think where you can get caught between two stools there, Shane, is if you're doing the short kick out and you're also being but you're not willing to take the risk, because he takes an inordinate amount of risk, but it's calculated risk by McGeeney, because he realises that actually, you know, when we bring him in, when things are slowing down, he is that extra player coming from deep, and he has such ball skills. He obviously played midfield for Donkeyshire, so he's able to handle the ball, but it's still a risk. But you know, the short kick out, I think sometimes keepers, they see a kick out and they want to go there, and they look away, but they still want to go back to that kick out. And if you have the high press on, and if you're smart enough, obviously you can pick them off. And of course, once you pick them off, it's goal time. There's still a lot to be said about just putting your foot through it, you know, in those situations. But you know, like, I mean, look, someone you know, obviously doing the stats, as I said, will be able to point things out. And the concession of a goal, yes, it can be a right kick in the teeth, but it can't be abandoned, because at the end of the day, if you are getting the short kick out away, you know, you're regaining possession, which is obviously massive for you.
I know you're talking about the Monaghan defence, but Kerry supporters are very, very excited about Donald Down O'Sullivan, the latest in the procession of glorious forwards.
Yeah.
It's going to be tricky to get into that team, but he might be good enough to do it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna join the hype train just yet, because I heard it. You know, I was kind of going, okay, 1-3. You know, he got the goal. I thought was
a soft goal as well.
Yeah, it was soft goal. It was like a bit. To be fair, I think it was Roach or else Brosnan who actually did a lot of good work for hand passed the ball across to him. If you watch some of the defending for some of the scores, there wasn't a Monaghan player within 10 yards of him. So he will have tougher battles, is what I'm saying, right? So then he has to prove himself against it. And he's now marked. Like, I'm coming into the next match as a cornerback. I don't know who they play next, and I'm thinking, right, I'm putting an X on this guy. Yeah. So how does he handle that, I suppose? But yes, you know, I've thought about it. Like, Kerry will definitely have to unearth one, if not two, okay, you got your Shawnee O'Shea, you have your two Cliffords, and I love the way they played Clifford last week. He played in a much more kind of withdrawn role. He was actually nearly acting as a double six, so he was a bit more he was deeper than he normally would be when he's playing that tricky kind of 11 role. And he's such a class player for Kerry. Like I honestly think he's their best, because he's the one guy that as soon as he gets the ball, his head is up and he's looking to pass it rather than trying to work something out for himself.
Yeah.
Obviously the brother inside, it's always about execution, and even Shawnee O'Shea to a large degree, whereas Paddy is always constantly looking at where's the right pass, where do I need to go with this, and his ability just to do small simple things, as I said, he's vital for them. I think that, yes, I think Guinea will struggle. I think, different players who come back. Spillane, even though when he came on, again, some chances you go, that should have went over.
Yeah.
You need to score those. You need to get yourself 5 or 6 points here. So I definitely think that Roach gives them something different. I think he gives them a much more physical presence in that full forward line. So where there's it's a bit of a physical battle inside there, and you want to protect David as much as possible, right, from going into that fit. You could fire him in because he's well able to take it. He's big and strong, and as I said, he gives you that different thing of a ball winning ability inside. But no, O'Sullivan will be fine. I think he has tougher battles to go, and I think like my worry about Monaghan, they are very young, and you can see it, and he's trying to blood new fellas, and he will get guys back. But I just saw some worrying signs in it of fellas just throwing in the towel, chasing back guys, and they're going to have to do a really tough video session this week, because they'll be skating out of Division 1 fairly sharp.
It's unforced errors as well. I know that Conor McManus isn't there, Jack McCarran was injured last week, they have the two Hughes brothers to come back in as well, but that's not really you still have to be playing better than it was just handing the ball to Kerry on different occasions, which is worrying. You just can't see that at Division 1 level. Like when you're talking about unearthing new players, that's maybe an advantage for Kerry. Having so many injuries has maybe allowed other players to kind of come in and.
Well, you could see the response from last week, because if you watch it back, they turned Monaghan over. In Monaghan's forward line on umpteen occasions, and it wasn't just one hand in. Next thing, there was another Kerry man over, and you could see the Monaghan lads getting hit from all angles. And Spillane was back there, Barry was back there. There was tackles going in, and good physical tackles, not stupid tackles with your hand in, but just putting a hand on someone, getting the ball down, someone else diving on the ball, and they showed a real desire. Like Brosnan was back. Brosnan was back in his own defence. I don't know how many. And I wouldn't say that is his game, but he was back there. You're
not going to play though if you don't do it. It's
absolutely.
You'd often see Paul Mannion back, left corner back defending, and then up the
correct.
The pitch.
So
that's what they're developing.
Correct.
One last thing, and we don't have time to get into it, but we might talk about it over the course of the rest of the league campaign. Paddy Kelly has been speaking to the Examiner about this is the Cork All-Ireland winner, talking about Cork's style of play. The one thing I'd be critical of, I thought it was very one-dimensional. It's very much a running game, very little looking up to kick and to move the ball through the lines quickly. And then he goes on to say, I was at a lot of Cork versus Kerry minor and under 20 games for the last 5 or 6 years with TG Carr. It's an obvious thing in Cork football. We've beaten Kerry and often been the better team, but it's a running style, whereas you see Kerry even losing minor and under 20s, it's always kicking out from defence down the channel 20 or 30 yard passes. I had basically the same conversation with somebody who's been involved with underage teams in Kildare recently, and he was just saying our style of play is still the running game, and it's been outstripped by the best teams who are looking to kick the ball long. And you saw Porrick Joyce come in, took him a long time to get there, but eventually they were like, we're a kicking team. The only one who's allowed to run with it is Shane Walsh because he's a genius. And but I think stylistically there are these trends where there are super athletic teams who are slightly doing the wrong thing. Armagh have changed, I think, and they're now a kicking team as well. So
absolutely. And
Mayo looking to have a proper final, this is your full forward, Aidan, that's going to be the end of your career, go for it. I think that
go on, sorry.
I think that's happening.
Yeah. I think it's a look, you know, and you follow NFL as I do, and they often talk in the NFL about establishing the run game so you can actually throw the pass. And I think it's the same thing in Gaelic football, because people were going on saying, Meath kicked a lot. Meath did a lot of running with the ball in the last 2 games, and it's a situation where if you are as a defence feel that these guys are going to kick the ball for you, you are naturally going to take a step back, because you're afraid of the ball going in over the top. Fellas can kick the ball accurately from 45, 50 yards. They should be able to anyhow. So all of a sudden your defence as a natural thing just sits back a little bit. It doesn't push up as much. So you can mix it then. If you put long balls in, should I say, and you have fellas taking their men on, well then actually what you can do then is the next time is you can run it, because the space will be there. It has to be there. And it's a different situation obviously when you can catch fellas on the break and stuff like that. But if you're naturally playing, now it is difficult when you come up against some of the more, shall we say, the teams that are very, very adept at just pouring men behind the ball. So let's say Tyrones or Donegals who are very defensive. How will Meath shape up with that? So how does that kicking game, and have you got the patience then to be able to recycle, and you end up in a dogfight where it's 10-7 or 10-8? So when it's,
if you haven't worked on the 2 or 3 opportunities you get in the game, if you haven't absolutely honed the craft of hitting 40-yard balls into somebody, then you're going to miss those opportunities, and that you'll never get the opportunity to settle them. So. Correct.
Well, if you watch a game and you watch a game back and you see, the classic where, say, a team are attacking, and all of a sudden the ball breaks down and it comes out to that extra man, say a half back or a half forward. If you see and he puts his head down straight away, that's it. Like in training, you need to say stop.
Yeah.
So his head has to be straight up, and he has to be thinking of, where is my 11?
Yeah.
Where is my man? And actually, Meath have Scully on half forward line, who's a really good player. He gets his head up himself. But exactly the same thing. Some of the better teams who are taking those risks have to realise that as an 11, he should have 40 or 50 yards of space left and right from him. I should be able to play the ball to him, and then it literally should be him pinging it straight in. No man is going to get back quicker than that. All right. So that is the pass. That is the pass that kind of unlocks the key.
We'll keep an eye out for those passes, those key passes in next week, the week after when the football is back. Anthony, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us.
No bother. Cheers, lads.
Anthony Moyles giving us some thoughts there on the football over the course of the weekend.